Why is globalism dying? That's what I'd like to talk about in today's history video. You know, when we came out of the era of national competition, of world wars, of Europe being at loggerheads with itself, the idea of a global approach, a globalist approach, made a lot of sense. But the problem was, the fundamental flaw in globalism is that while you could create a global financial system easily, and a global economic system with some difficulty, but you could do it, we never created a global government, a global democracy, a global method for people to govern themselves, because we never stopped to get rid of the dictatorships in Russia, China, and 2 dozen other countries that were prominent players in the global economy, but that didn't allow their people any freedom or any democracy. And the result is that we end up having our decisions made for us by countries, only some of whom are democratic. And those decisions are very often against the interests of freedom, against the interests of democracy, and just unfair. That's why Britain left the European Union. I worked for Brexit, you know, because fundamentally there was no democracy in the European Union, and the British wanted to be governed by a democracy. France may follow suit. The United States has turned away from the World Trade Organization and the Pacific Rim Initiative and other stuff. Because until we solve that problem of how do you incorporate the people's view, not just the banker's view, not just the economist's view, not just the expert's view, but the people's view, the world population will be suspect of globalism, and rightly so. And that is truly the contradiction that is dragging down the European Union, the United Nations, all of the international agencies, because they rest on a premise that is not a solid one, because it is not a democracy. The big scandal that has the Democrats all aflutter these days is, did Russia intervene in the American election with a view toward determining the outcome? Well, first of all, come on. The United States has been intervening in foreign elections ever since the World War II. We used to subsidize the Christian Democratic Party in Italy because we were worried the communists would take over. We subsidized the French parties that were not communist. We used intelligence gathering and other stuff to help our allies around the world, the factions in each country that were our allies. And if you were pro-American, you could count on a good deal of covert support from the United States. To say that that Russia's intervening in an election, and that's new, is just disingenuous. The question is, why are they doing it? Are they doing it because of the way they used to, which is they want to install a dictatorship and get rid of democracy and snuff out freedoms, like they do when they get involved in the Ukrainian election, or in the Crimean election, or in any of the Baltic states? If that's the case, it's worth knocking them for it and sanctioning them. But that's not why they intervened in the American election. They don't think they can end democracy in the United States. If they intervened, that's a big if, but if they intervened, it was probably because they felt that Hillary Clinton was an unreliable partner, that she could not be counted on for thinking outside the box, that Donald Trump could work with Russia to limit China's influence and power in much the same way that Nixon worked with China to limit Russia's influence and power in the 1970s. And it could well be that they feel that a strong United States fighting against Islamic terrorists would help Russia, which has this huge border with the Islamic terrorist states. And if that's the reason they helped Trump, and if that's the reason they intervened, hey, it's in their national interest, it's not averse to ours, and I've got no problem with it. So let's not get all high and mighty about this issue, okay? Unfortunately, the biggest single problem in Obamacare is now being carried over into the Republican Obamacare reform and repeal bill. And if it's there, it's going to have the same negative effect on the new system that it had on the old system. When the original Obamacare bill was going through the Congress, people said, oh, maternity benefits. They said, oh yeah, we got to cover that. Mental health benefits, oh yeah, sure, let's put that in. Substance abuse, oh yeah, let's do that. And they ended up coming up with 10, actually 12 categories that had to be completely covered before the federal government would approve the plan and put it up for sale in the various insurance exchanges. And those loaded up the plan to such expense. Behind each special interest, behind each service, there was a special interest. Behind each special interest, a lobbyist pushing for that to be included. So it ended up being a crazy system. Men have to buy maternity benefits. 60-year-old women have to buy birth control services. People that have never been near drugs have to buy substance abuse stuff. People that are completely sane have to get mental health benefits. And the result is this huge escalation in cost. And that's why nobody wanted the policies, because they cost so much and the deductibles were so high because they had all this stuff in it. And when somebody came in and said, hey, I just need catastrophic coverage, I'll take care of the rest, they said you have to be under 30 to do that. 35-year-old couldn't do that. And as a result, most of the insurance needs were not met. Now, in the new bill that Ryan is putting forward, those same list of services are in there. There's no change in those at all. And the whole change in the bill is how we finance it. Do we use tax credits instead of subsidies? Do we have refundable tax credits? All kinds of different technical questions as to how you can change the program. But the fundamental thing is that the stuff that's driving the cost is not changed at all. And as I mentioned in a previous video, we also need to change what we cover in Medicaid. When you go up to lower middle income people, they can afford a deductible. They can afford a copay. You probably know stories of people that go into the emergency room and there are 90 people there kind of shooting the breeze. It's sort of the community center. Although you can eliminate that with deductibles, copayments, and some of that stuff. That's got to be put in that bill. But the main thing is to change that list of services so that you can write a policy for a 35-year-old married couple with no kids for catastrophic care, or with kids who are covered by a separate program, CHIP, to protect the adults for catastrophic care. That's what most young people need and want. But it's not in the bill now. It's not in Ryan's plan. So please write your senator and your congressman, particularly if he's a Republican, and make that clear. Thanks for watching.